Welcome back all my fashionistas and my pattern makers. Have you ever find yourself thinking of what you want to add to your summer wardrobe? Sometimes you might find yourself looking for a sleeveless blouse. And that sleeveless blouse, you may want to add something to it to not just let it look plain. So you want to add a little bit of frill to it. On top of that, you don't want your blouse to be the traditional blouse where you can tuck it in or it just sit above your hip line but below your waist. You may want something a little bit above the waist, maybe about an inch or half inch, and you also want a band around it. But then, hey, it's summer, you know it's going to be hot, and so you decide to have the back side panel but not the center back panel. Guess what? I'm going to show you how to make a blouse like this, where the center back panel is going to be missing. You won't have that because you need that extra air to flow through because you know summertime is so hot, and also you want to dress sexy. You would also have the two straps that will be tied at the center back right by your bra area to hold you in, and also you will have a band around the waist and tie that at the center back. In terms of the shoulders, you don't want it to be plain, so you're going to have a little piece of fabric that is going to be gathered to create, I'll say, create an extra oof. So let's get started with making this fabulous blouse. You will need a traditional bodice pattern, the front and also the back. First, we're going to start with the traditional basic bodice pattern for the front of the blouse, and I'm going to trace that out. Then I'm going to also trace out the back. So now that you have both the front and the back all traced out, okay, that's the center front, this is the center back. Let's make sure that we have our darts put in. This is for the back, the notches. Front. So now that we have both the front pattern and the back pattern on our pattern paper, then the next thing we need to do is to start creating our style. So we are making this blouse and the back. We have to style this. The first thing that I suggest for you to do is start with the neckline. I would take off an inch off the neckline. So you need to take off an inch off the neckline here. Go in an inch, and I would also drop an inch here at the front. You want to make sure that this line is perpendicular to the center front for at least 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch. That's fine, because when you're curving that and creating your style line, you don't want to have a dip here which is going to create an uneven space. You need it to curve properly. You're going to shape this out now. So you will get your French curve and you will shape this out, and that is what you will end up with. I want to go up 1.5 inches on the side seam and all around on the waist area, so I'm going to go up 1.5 inches here. Make sure you are marking it right along the dart area, and also here 1.5 inches again. You want to make sure that this is perpendicular for at least 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Make sure it's perpendicular. And what you need to do next, you are going to shape it out. You can get the hip curve and you can shape this out. Now, one thing I must say to you is that because I'm illustrating this on the whiteboard, it is hard to get the accurate shape of the dart at the end by the seam. But what I'll suggest you do, you can fold your dart, tape it, and then create that line. But we don't even have to worry about that, because guess what? Our blouse is not going to have a dart. So I'm going to get rid of the dart here from the blouse, and I'm simply going to have a mark right here. So what I suggest for you to do is that I got rid of the dart, so I need to create gathers here. But because I'm creating gathers, I want you to note something very important. You need to measure original dart width is, this is 2.5 inches, but if I pull this up, I will still have an inch there. So what you need to do now, you need to not use where the dart tip would have been as your guide to where to start the gathers. I would go half an inch before and half an inch after that. Between these two marks, you are going to have your gathers here. This is going to be gathers. You could have also done tucks. So that's another option. You could either do gathers or you could do tucks. And you know, tucks are like pleats, but they don't form all the way. So you can have done tucks right here, and you can smooth out and shape out this line right here. Smooth it out. It should not be straight, because when you pull the gathers together, it's going to create that. So once you have this now, then you're good to go. I also needed to measure the distance between the center front and the original dart mark and write that down. So this is 3.5 inches. So you're going to write down 3.5 inches here. And also on this side, the original to the seam allowance, because this is 4.5, is going to be 4 inches. So you have 4 inches here. So you know that the front waist area or waistband, you need 7.5 inches, and that's on the fold. So it's going to give you 15 inches you need across for your band when you're making your band. So let's go ahead now and style the back of the blouse. So I can label this as the front, okay, and this is the back. For the back, I am going to go over the same 1 inch that I did along the shoulder from the neck, 1 inch over. All right, so I need to have my mark there, which is 1 inch over. Also, make sure that you have your seam line in here as a guide, because I'm going to show you a trick when you have your seam line there, and you will continue all around there. So you have your mark here, which is 1 inch in from the shoulder and the neck. The next thing that you need to do on the back is also go up 1.5 inches, just like you did on the front. So make sure this is perpendicular here, and you're going up 1.5 inches, right? You want to continue with your center back line here just for clarity. Side back, taking off the seam allowance, which is 1/2 inch, you will end up with 3.5 inches here. And you will end up over here with 3 3/8. So you have your 3 3/8 there, and that 3 3/8, when you add that with the 3.5, you are looking for a back waist band here of 6 7/8 of an inch. So we have this. What I suggest for you to do, you have one of two things. You can either eliminate the dart here, form almost like a semi-straight line coming down to here, or you can bring your line to here. It's up to you. I would actually rather make this 4 inches across. So I just need 4 inches here. This is going to be at the 4.5 inch mark, which is halfway through. It's going to be here halfway. Connect my line from the top down, but you want it to have more of a curve, not too much of a straight line. Also, you don't want too much of a sharpness at the shoulder here. The next thing that you should do is place the front of the pattern over to the back of the pattern, like the front to the back, like this. Make sure you are joining the seam line, and then you want to make sure that this shape that you have right here, because you will have it here continuing, is going to create a nice shape here. You have to curve that area. If you don't curve that area on the shoulder, you're going to have too much of a sharpness. So you need it to be curved properly, so you have a smooth line that is going at the shoulder there. You don't want it to come like, oh, like being abrupt, come like this, and then the front piece goes like that. So if this is the case you have, you would simply now curve it out like this. so have it smooth. So if you find out that you have like a sharpness there, just curve it out and make it smooth when you join both shoulders together. One of the things that I cannot illustrate to you using the whiteboard, but you can do that when you're able to fold the paper at the seam line, join them, you can tape it and then create that smoothness with your tool. And you will use this tool to create that shape right there, make sure that it's smooth, and then you can trace it to go through both layers of the paper, so that when you are actually making the garment and you finish the garment, you will have a smooth line that's going on there. So that is very important. Now the next thing that you're going to do, you're going to plan this accordingly. So this is the bottom piece, and we're going to have a band that's attached to here. You can now also go up and create your new seam allowance, which is up 1/2 inch away. This is going to be above your waist a little bit. All right, it's going to be above your waist a little bit. It doesn't matter. Then what you can do, you can add your 1/4 inch around the edge of this. 1/4 inch you need around the edge of the side back, and the front is fine. You just need to add a 1/4 inch around the neckline at the front. You use your ruler obviously to add your 1/4 inch there. Then we need to plan this accordingly. I would place one of my straps right here, and the other will obviously be at the waistband where you're going to tie that. You need to place a notch right here to show that you are going to place the strap right there. You can do it with just one, where you know that that's going to be the top of the strap. You know your strap is going to go like this, and you can make your strap 1 inch wide, or you can make it 3/4 inch. So 3/4 inch to 1 inch wide is fine for your strap. Band at the bottom, you could make it say 1 1/4 inch, or you can do 1.5 inches for your band, and that's for your band for the waist. So you will have that band going around from the center front here, and also for the back just coming to here. You don't need this total measurement that you have there. In actuality, you need the 15 there, plus you need, this is going to be ×2, so this is going to be 7. So you have 7 inches plus 15, so you need a total of 22 inches. But you need extra length for you to be able to tie that band at the back, or tie the strap at the back. So you can add an extra 16 inches on either side, so you need 32 inches total, plus the seam allowance at the end of the band. You can do 1/4 inch. 33 inches is fine. It is fine if you do it a little bit longer than the 16 inches on either side, or a little bit shorter. It's up to you, your preference. But I just don't want mine to be extra long, where I have an extra long strap after I tie my bow. No, I don't want that. So you can have your band 55 inches long for the waist part, and because you're doing 1.25 inch here, you need twice this. So you need the band for the waist to be twice this, which is 2.5, plus 1 inch total seam allowance on either side. So you need 3.5 inches by 55 inches long. Now what you can do, you can cut this on a fold, and if you cut it on the fold, then all you need to do on the fold, you need 3.5 inches wide by 27.5 inches, and you place it on the fold at the 3.5. This is 2 inches right there. You need 3.5 inches. Create a rectangle with that 3.5 inches. This is going to be your fold. So this is the fold, place on fold, and you make this 27.5 inches across, and I'm just doing dot to show that it continues, and that is your waistband. Then you will need simply ×1 of this on the fold. If you don't place it on fold, then you're going to use this measurement and make your rectangle 3.5 inches by 55 inches long. Let's create the pattern for the frill that is going to be attached to the armhole right by the shoulder area. So we need 3 inches from side seam here for the front. I need 3 inches, and I'm going to mark that off. And for the back, I can come up 3.5 inches for the back. So what we need to do now that we have those marks here, we need to measure the distance from the shoulder to this mark. And I'm going to use my skinny ruler here, and I'm going to measure this. And remember, do not measure right at the edge of the seam here. Measure where the seam would be, right? Not at the edge of the seam allowance. And here I would get 4.5 inches here. I'm going to mark it 4.5 inches for the back, and on the front 4.75 of an inch. So this is 4.75 of an inch. Now let's add those together. I will get 9.25 inches, because it is going to be a frill that is going to be attached to the armhole circumference. Not entirely all of it. We're going to stop right here and right here. I would say you can do between 2 to 2.5 times this, because it all depends on the thickness of the fabric, and you don't want too much gathering going on. So I say 2 times this amount is good enough. So we need now 18.5. That's what we need total there. We are going to draw a rectangle, and my rectangle is going to be 19 inches on my ruler here. So that's the 18 mark, and I need the 19 inches here, so I need to go over a little bit more. So what I need to do now, I need to plan for the width of my frill. I don't want to go more than 3 inches. Let's measure my frill. I have a little bit less than 3 inches. If I have 2 3/4 as my width, I need that to times it by 2 is going to be 5.5 inches, and then you need to consider your seam allowance there, so you can add, because this already have the 1/2 inch here. What I suggest for you to do, you can take off 1/4 inch here, so to make the seam allowance 1/4 inch. Do the same for the front, so make the seam allowance 1/4 inch. This is only because you're adding the frill, and the seam allowance on the frill, you don't need to have that full 1/2 inch. You can do 1/4 inch. So that's the reason why I'm doing this, and I'm going to add another 1/2 inch for the seam allowance. So I need this part to be on the fold. That's my symbol for it to be on the fold. Even though you have your total width here is going to be 6 inches for this, you don't need the 6 inches, because you're going to place this on fold. So what I suggest for you to do is, because you have this on fold, you just simply need the width, which is 3 inches, and I could do 3 inches here. This is 2 inches and another inch down, and you can mark it from this side. You need 3 inches there. Mark 3 inches down here. So now you have your ruler and you're lining up everything. This is going to be your line. I have to style the rectangle, because if you look at what I did with my blouse, even though it's on the fold, this is a fold edge right here, and you can clearly see this because this is a checkered pattern. I simply curve it in, so you need to do that. So you have that on fold right there. You can mark this off 3 inches over, or it could be 2 inches. 3 inches over is good enough. 3 inches in on here. So let's shape it out like this. And you do it on the other side also. And you shape it out. This is going to be your 1/4 inch seam allowance all around that you're going to need, because you started off with 2 3/4 inch width. Okay, and this is where you're going to do your 2 rows of gathering thread first. So this is what your pieces would look like. So you have the piece for the band, and then for the strap right here, the second strap, you need it to be 3/4 inch or at most 1 inch. So you simply draw another line. This is 2 inches, and you need 16 to 18 inches. So I need to come down a half an inch there because doing my 1/4 of an inch seam allowance here on either side of the pattern pieces all around. So what you need to know is that this is going to be for this band right here that you're going to place. All right, this is the one that you are going to do. So since this is for the band, right, you need this to be ×2 fabric, because one is going to be placed here and one is going to be on the other side of the side back panel. So you have 2 pieces that are going to be joined together. You will have the 2 straps here, and you are going to tie these, and you also have the 2 from the continuation of the waistband that you're going to tie at the back. So you need those. These are your pattern pieces. This you need 2 pieces ×2, unfold, ×2 fabric, unfold. And this doesn't need to be unfolded, it needs to be on grain line. So simply on your grain line, you don't need it to be unfolded. And you need to simply use this side. So you're going to eliminate this side. You don't need this side of the pattern. This is the side that you need, and we can label this as the side back. Alright, and this is the blouse. And this is the front. You need ×1 unfold fabric, and the side back you need ×2 fabric. You can create a facing, or you can simply make this act as a lining to support the back of the blouse. So your choice is, if you are going to use facing, you can make your facing 2 to 2.5 inches wide. So you can just go along this line here to 2 inches down or 2.5 inches down. It's up to you. And mark that as your facing. Okay, and that's your facing. Mark this out, trace it out, and this will be separate, and you name it as the back facing, or the side back facing actually. So ×2 fabric and fusible for this. For this piece you just need 1, but you also need the neck facing, so you need to do again 2 to 2.5 inches, your preference for the neck facing. Make sure this part is perpendicular to the center front. If not, you'll be in trouble. And this is the front neck facing. Now what I'll suggest for you to do is that you can use bias binding to clean finish the area from here to here. When you have joined your side seam, you can use bias binding to clean finish that edge right there, the raw edges right there. This piece will be enclosed in the waistband, so you don't have anything to worry about when it comes to that part. Now that you know how to create a pattern for this blouse, which has no center back piece, it's just simply 2 straps that are going to be tied at the back to create that extra area with that backless, not totally backless, but just enough for you to feel comfortable and be able to walk around. It is a nice blouse. I love wearing it in the summertime. You can wear it with a pair of pants, a tight fitting pants, or it could be a nice tight fitted shorts, or it could be a skirt. I hope that you will go ahead and make one for yourself, and I hope that this video has helped you tremendously and that you have gained some knowledge on how to make a pattern for a blouse. Please go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you have not done so. Please share my videos with others around the world, and don't forget, hit that like button and leave me a comment also. I love to read your comments and I love to respond to your comments. So go ahead, feel free, make a blouse like this and wear it well. And enjoy your summer. See you soon. Bye now.